3 to 4 cubic meters, so it's very narrow. You can recognize the Shenzhou spaceship as a taxi between the ground and the Tiangong space station. So, that this time, the time duration of the return has already been greatly shortened comparing with the Shenzhou 12 mission.
How long was that
only
one?
about 6 to 7 hours. So it's more convenient than the former missions to ensure that the astronauts stay in a very narrow volume as short as possible. So that is the optimization of our work.
Professor Zhang, you were saying about the the burning for the capsule when it re-enters the atmosphere, it will be essentially on fire, right? As it's kind of coming through. But there's so much heat proofing that has to be done. How much do the astronauts feel inside?
They don't feel any temperature rise at all. So the burning will be most severe around near 50 kilometers above. So there's a blackout period where the burning is so intense. The entire capsule is enclosed by a layer of plasma, and radio waves can't travel through that plasma, which is why you can't hear anything coming from the inside at that time. That'll last
Communication blackout, right?
Yeah, that'll last about 5 minutes. So that period will probably be the most difficult most lonely for them, for certainly.
So we won't be able to communicate to them. We won't be able to see any video either. There's nothing, just nothing at all. We won't get anything from
in
them,
the
right?
blackout area, you cannot see anything. But at this moment, they are still above the atmosphere, so we can see the video camera mounted inside the re-entry capsule. The video is transmitted by the Tianlian data relay satellite, so we can clearly see at this moment the 3 astronauts are still in microgravity environment. But when the spacecraft are touching the atmosphere, gradually they will experience the G-forces.
What, if you can explain that to us in kind of more simple terms, what's the pressure of that like on the astronauts? How many?
The peak value will be 3 to 4 times of your own weight.
So it would feel like 3 or 4 times, your weight on top of
above your body.
Right.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, in normal procedure, it's about 3.6 G. Which means that the forces acting on your body are about 3.4 times of your own mass. But that's the normal case. In an emergency, absolutely will not happen this time. In an emergency re-entry, because the trajectory will be more deeper, so theoretically speaking, the peak value can reach to 8 G. And that even at this moment, the astronauts, especially the commander and the pilot, should have the ability to piloting the ship. So that's the requirement to the pilot, very, very strict.
So they just have to endure all this pressure.
Even at the 8G, you can pilot the ship.
Wow, that's I can't imagine it. But I think we talked about this before, Professor Yang, when we were here for the last landing. But there's this belief that people pass out, that astronauts pass out on their way back. But this doesn't normally happen, does it?
That doesn't normally, but it do happen
if they have to
in
pilot
other
the
countries
ship,
before.
If it's AG, then yeah.
Then it's very possible that they might.
That several years before, there is a Russian spacecraft called the Soyuz MS-10. And because of the malfunction of the launch vehicle, it suffered emergency re-entry. So the peak value of the G-forces is much greater than the ordinary cases. So just several years before this happened. But although as we have already seen, the re-entry burn has already been conducted very successfully. So we can say that during the re-entries, the G-forces will be very smooth as the normal case. And the next critical step for the Shenzhou spaceship will be the separation of the re-entry capsule and
the propulsion
module. This is also very, very important.
That should happen quite soon, shouldn't it? I think. Professor Zhang, what would you say is the most dangerous part of this journey back for the astronauts?
When the parachute opens, that's the most critical step. I mean, all the other sort of retro rocket in the end, that'll just make it more comfortable. But really, sort of life or death is the opening.
Why?
Of the parachute.
Why is that?
It's a massive parachute that's really light, and whenever you open up a really large parachute, there's always the
Drags.
danger of things get tangled up and stuff like that.
Oh, so it's more kind of a malfunction, potentially, and just an accident, like things being tangled.
Yeah, and it's more difficult to control. It's a passive system. It's not like a rocket you can control. It's there's air current and everything. That if the parachute
doesn't open,
yeah, and then the parachute has to be open in many steps. There's like 3 parachutes, and then the main one would open just partially initially, and then open full wide, and all that was done passively.
For example, from the right of the screen, we can see that the attitude of the Shenzhou spacecraft has changed again.
Right.
I believe that they are preparing for the separation of the propulsion module. So I believe that we can see that within several minutes.
So let me just ask. So we're looking at this image. This image is this sort of us looking up at the spacecraft. Is that the kind of angle that?
Yeah. It's upside down. And next will be the separation. And you know that we have the heating shield on the re-entry capsule, but do not have similar measures on the propulsion module. So we can see a lot of debris during the re-entry. That is the debris of the propulsion module, because we don't need that again.
We just heard there from the ground control that all the airborne rescue teams are all in position, and standing by.
Yes. And as we have already mentioned, there are several times the Flight Control Center will announce the newest or the updated prediction of the landing point. And they will maneuver either both of the helicopters and the ground vehicles will change their direction to the predicted landing site. And also, as Professor Zhang has mentioned, not at the right place, because when after deployment of the main chute, they were also jettisoning the main shield.
Yeah.
Okay, separation conducted.
I think we'll see the image, probably see the computer image of it very soon, right? The simulation.
We can hear the voice that the commander has announced that the separation has already been conducted.
Yeah, and we'll be able to see it ourselves in a little bit, I imagine.
So this is a video from the helicopter. We can see the Gobi Desert.
What sort of kind of a rescue formation would this be in? Would it be kind of on bordering the projected? Would it be kind of a net, the rescue teams would be in a formation of a net kind of around the projected point, or would they just be moving in units, as the projected landing point changes? Would you know?
There are informations. That there is a helicopter acted as the commanding unit, and also we have the other 4 in different directions. So they are just have a formation flying, and also the ground vehicle. That there are several teams for the medical teams and those in charge of the Shenzhou spacecraft, and also other teams. So they are just they move very constantly.
They must have several medical teams as well, right? Because in case they land in different areas.
Yeah. So you know that every time, as I have mentioned, there are errors in the re-entry burn itself, and also that we Shenzhou spaceship conducted a controlled re-entry. Okay, the second prediction.
No, that's right. That's from the ground control there. We have the second projected landing point there.
Also spot on the theoretical one, so everything's going really smoothly.
You may notice that the latitude and the longitude of the second prediction is already different from the first one.
We're just hearing the latitude and longitude being announced there by the ground control of the second projected landing point for the return capsule.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's go to our.
We heard the voice that the space station, the ground station, has already captured the vehicle.
Okay.
Which means that the data link between the vehicle and the ground station has established.
Okay, so that's getting closer once again to target. Well, let's go to our reporter Wu Lei, who's at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center for another update. Wu Lei, what do you have for us?
Yes, and we just know that the propulsion module and the re-entry module has been separated, and now the re-entry module is now on its way back to Earth. And you just heard that here at Beijing Aerospace Control Center, the ground team have already updated the second landing point for the re-entry module. We know that during this period of time, they will update 4 times about the precise landing point for the Shenzhou 15 re-entry module. And we know that over the next few minutes, the re-entry module will re-enter the atmosphere, and we know the temperature on the outside of the re-entry module will reach over 1,000 degrees Celsius. But with the help of the high technology and new materials, the Taikonauts inside will have a relatively stable temperature inside, and they will experience some time of black hole communication, which means that they cannot talk to the Beijing Aerospace Control Center here. But we know that here, this is a place that the ground team talked to different groups of people here now standing by, including the helicopters as well as the ground search and rescue team. And now all the teams are standing by here to welcome the 3 Taikonauts back on Earth. And here, actually, last November, on the last day of November at Zhuquan Satellite Launch Center, I was there witnessing the launch of the Shenzhou 15 crew, and now they are coming back. And I have to say that how time flies. They have conducted 4 times of spacewalks, and they have conducted several dozens of space experiments, including some medical experiments, microgravity experiments, and now they are coming back. And all their colleagues, families, and friends are waiting them for their safe return. So over the next few minutes, we will see the re-entry module re-entering the atmosphere, and the main parachute will open on the place that is about 10 kilometers above the ground, and the small engines on the re-entry module will fire again. That is about 1 or 2 meters above the ground. So that is to say that when the re-entry module successfully landed, the Beijing Aerospace Control Center will announce the successful mission of the Shenzhou 15 crew. So along with these space engineers, and we are reporters also waiting here to witness this historical moment.
And they're so close to home now. It's exciting, but also a very nervous time for everyone involved. Thank you so much, Wu Lei, at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. And we've been hearing there kind of throughout our correspondence piece that from ground control and various ground control that they have the target locked.
So this is a video taken by the ground station with the optical telescope.
Probably the bright dot we're seeing there is the capsule, right?
So probably this is an infrared video image. You can see the bright spot is the re-entry capsule itself. We can see that it has a very, very long trail. The trail is the ablative materials. When it was heated by the aerodynamic heating, it will be vaporized and form the plasma. So at this moment, it is, as Professor Zhang has mentioned, it is in the blackout area because the plasma will block the radio waves between the vehicle and the ground station.
Is it already in the blackout zone now?
I believe it.
The space capsule?
Yeah.
So at this point, no signals, nothing from the astronauts inside?
Although the communication is blocked, but still the readers and the optical telescopes on the ground station can track the precise trajectory of the vehicle.
So they're now about 80 to 100 kilometers above Earth? Is that where they are?
It's between 40 kilometers to 100.
50.
So the at this moment, the G forces acting on the bodies of the astronauts is very high. Yeah, as I mentioned, usually the peak value is more than 3 times of their own mass. So they will feel this not very, very comfortable. Moreover, besides the G forces, there are also vibration, because the aerodynamic forces acting on the re-entry capsule will also cause this very, very intensive vibration. So it's really not very comfortable.
I mean, when you think about the kind of training that these astronauts have to undergo, it's incredibly tough on the body. And there's the G-force training, but Professor, you were also telling me earlier about the sleep deprivation training that they'd have to go through as well, right? Just to be able to, endure all kinds of emergency situations.
In some emergency cases, they cannot sleep for even 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
That's a
Sitting
long
in this
time.
for
So
9
the
hours.
tracking, I think the tracking phase is over now.
Just as you have already asked, I don't believe that they will have any sleep just after the undocking from the space station, because there are so many critical steps.
Exactly, but also, I mean, no doubt they're excited to come back as well. That too. It's tense, isn't it, for them?
双城发现目标。
Okay, our
The more-
Shangcheng ground station has already
Tracked the
captured
target,
the
that's right.
target.
What happens to the parts of the spacecraft that they shedded already, Professor Zhang?
So the service module would have already burned up. At the very beginning of this video, this infrared image, we saw a larger thing moving sideways away from the main re-entry module. That's the service module. It would have
长城报告，
already
回
burned
收
up.
主开关成功后发现目标。
The earlier ejected sort of orbital module will still be up there.
回收2回收1号光谱完成，光谱完成。
Enter and burn
金
up.
山
Okay, so
回收
none
1
of
号
this is
光谱
going
完
to
成
cause。 space waste or anything.
We just heard that the recovery one has already captured the vehicle. The recovery one is the what we call the USB telecontrol and telecommunication system. So it means that at this moment, probably I believe that it already go out of the blackout area.
That's right. That's right. So they're out of the blackout area. So just a reminder for our audience, and that's the area where communication is lost with the astronauts, with the return capsule there.
Also, we heard a voice that the recovery recovery 2 has already captured the vehicle. The recovery 2 is a vehicle, is a ground vehicle with a radar, which can even get the trajectory during the blackout area.
北京明白。
So more communication there from the various ground stations.
雄鹰报告，雄鹰1号收到243信号，报告完毕。
Also, we heard a voice from the Xiongyin. Xiongyin means the helicopter.
The helicopter for the search teams.
Yes, for the rescue
Helicopters.
team.
So even though we don't have any direct communication from the astronauts from the return capsule itself, obviously there's all these ground stations and various teams still tracking and keeping an eye on their return. So this period lasts how long in the blackout zone, usually?
Several minutes, usually no more than 4 minutes. So you may notice from this image that the re-entry capsule is much slower now.
北京明白。
And the next critical step will the deployment of several chutes. Actually speaking, there are 3 sets of
安
chutes.
息跟踪结束。
安息跟踪结束。
It's another announcement of tracking by various monitoring stations that it's
沙洲跟踪结
their
束。
tracking phase is done.
At the altitude about 10 kilometers, the speed of the vehicle will be lower than 300 meters per second. And at this moment, it will deploy the first parachute.
So we should be able to get signal back. We should be able to hear from the astronauts very soon, right?
Yeah.
It's would have been a few minutes.
Usually, after deployment of the parachute, the commander inside the capsule will report their status.
Right, so they need to lower the speed below the speed of sound to be able to open
雄
the
鹰2号，雄鹰4号
How would they do that?
长城报告，
just like rubbing against the air like
Oh,
they're
okay,
doing right
so
now.
it's a
Yeah.
natural,
10公里通。
natural process. Nothing needed for them to do. I mean, it's obviously the complete opposite of the launch, right? Where you want to decrease drag, but this is coming back. You want to have that slowdown process. So that's
Okay.
the parachute that.
出主宰
Deployed.
What? This is the
3D animation. This is the 3D animation,
image.
which represents the real status.
But you said 3 parachutes, so right now we're looking at the main parachute.
Yeah,
right?
this is the main parachute. It is very huge.
And then the other 2 parachutes would open up on the side.
The total area of the main parachute is 1,200 square meters.
1,200 square meters.
Yeah, very, very huge. But we haven't seen the videos now. It seems that it's cloudy in the landing site.
And how much would that sort of these weather factors affect the landing?
各号注意，我是北京。下面通报返回舱第
Telemetry,
3次落点预报。
like we're seeing the
落
video
点
right
经度
now, will
东
be
经
effective.
撩动
But
动度
since they
动
already
5分
established,
动4秒。
established the
东经撩
connection
动动
with
度
the
动5分
with the
动4秒
capsule.
落点纬度
Data is being
北纬
directly
412度
streamed from
3
the
拐分
capsule, so
55
it
秒
shouldn't
北
affect
纬
the filters that
412度
much.
3拐分
We're just
55
getting
秒
the。third
北京
projection
第
from
3
the
次
landing
预报已
site.
发。
Yes, we, as you mentioned, we just heard the voice of the commander. He announced the prediction for the third time,
Yeah, we're looking at the red dot there.
4秒，
the landing site.
目前纬度为北纬
I haven't been keeping track, but I don't know how far off that is from the first projection site.
Yeah.
If that's fairly
正确，
close.
But still, it's very cloudy. You can see in the landing site. And we just see in the previous screen is the, as we mentioned, is the 3D animation. But the 3D animation is based on the telemetry data received from the vehicle, so it can represent the real condition.
So just announced that all the tracking signals are all normal, in working order.
We don't need to actually see it. As long as it's dropping its altitude at the correct speed, then the
It
main
will-
chute
it will
will
land.
open correctly. Yeah.
各号注意，6公里头。
It's 6 kilometers above now.
Just 6 kilometers away from Earth right now.
Yeah.
So it's traveled, dozens of kilometers in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah. And after the deployment of the main parachute,
That little spot that we're seeing now on that big screen, is that the capsule?
直升机光
Essentially,
学
that
调
little
查
flashing,
到货返回舱，报告完毕。
that tiny little flashing spot? Is that the capsule that we're looking
That
at?
should be.
you cannot see that very
神
clearly.
舟15号
There is a，
我是北
tiny,
京。
tiny little
返回
spot.
舱即将着陆于东风着陆场预定位置。
They just announced that the capsule will soon be landing at the Dongfeng landing site.
Oh, we heard the voice from the crew.
Ah, that's great.
舱防热大底，雄鹰。
So they'll be
The heating
shedding
shield.
the
The heating
heat
shield is
shield, right, at the bottom.
明白。
Why do they drop the heating shield?
Because the temperature is very high,
Okay.
so we must jettison that to avoid the heat will transfer to the inside of the capsule. And moreover, you see that we have some devices at the bottom of the vehicle. The retro rocket, as Professor Zhang has mentioned, just about 1 meter above the surface of the Earth.
That will
So the
work.
retro rocket will work. So we must expose the retro rocket by jettisoning the heating shield.
So they have that rocket on just to, again, to reduce the speed of the rocket from landing.
Four very small solid rocket engines to reduce the speed to about 1 to 2 meters per second.
If they didn't use that rocket, what sort of a speed would it be dropping at, Professor Zhang?
8 meters per second, so
Okay,
it's
so
like
it's a
a
big
full
difference.
100-meter dash. That dashing straight into the wall, it's still gonna hurt. So they have that last step. So
And
the,
also at the bottom of the re-entry capsule, we have what we call a gamma ray altimeter, which can measure
what, sorry?
gamma ray
Gamma ray,
altimeter.
okay.
We use gamma ray to measure the distance between the bottom and the surface of the Earth very precisely. So with this device, we can send the command very precisely to ignite the retro rocket. And also before that, we also have two very important steps. One is to releasing all the propellants remained in the re-entry capsule because it is toxic. So we must release all the propellants. And also another step is to raise the chairs of the astronauts, and also this also provide another dumping of impact energy when touch down the Earth.
So Professor Zhang, you were likening that 8 meters per second to a 100-meter dash, but if with the rocket with the rocket engines on, that would be equivalent
Probably just
to...
walking speed.
Okay, that's
there should be-
walking speed is good.
And their seat is being raised, so there's more of a cushion when they
Right.
hit it.
So they feel less impact.
Right.
神舟10号报告，提升完成，后控制翼发出，完毕。
北京明白。
Is that
Shenzhou
another
15 crew
announcement
is
from the
reporting their
crew?
status.
They are now so close to home. But this next part obviously is a lot slower. What sort of speed are they moving at right now?
Oh, it seems that we've already seen the huge main parachute.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
parachute,
that
yeah.
round circle in
It's
the
not
middle,
very
and that's the
clear.
capsule dangling on the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah.
北京雄鹰报告，空中分队向返回舱升拢飞行，报告完毕。
And that's another
Beijing,
report
remember?
from the airborne search crew.
It seems that it's a little bit foggy in the landing site. Not very clear.
No, we're still able to make out the frame of the parachute there.
Oh,
Well, that's
okay,
much
great.
clearer.
They're dumping fuel.
And will the teams have to retrieve all the parts that's been shedded as well, that's on Earth?
Yeah.
Or the heat shield as well as the engines, that all has to be taken back and...
Right, and the capsule, re-entry capsule itself will probably be on display somewhere for kids to see. Yeah.
But from this video, we can see that it's a little bit windy in the landing site area.
But again, we're still only seeing one main parachute there, so the
Oh,
two...
the
they
other
wouldn't
two,
necessarily
the
be
other two
used?
happens earlier before this, so they
Oh.
drag this main ship out. Yeah.
I see. So now it's just the one parachute that gets
There
down.
is first it will release deploy a leading chute, and then a drogue chute. Then the last one is a main parachute.
So compared to before, obviously, when they're traveling at a faster speed, it seems to be a pretty steady trajectory. Now they're really shifting around a lot, being swung
because-
around
because
on
of the wind,
parachute,
Right.
But this
But they can feel that inside too,
they can
right?
feel.
The astronauts are feeling
They can
that.
feel, and also that's
They don't get motion sickness.
with the deployment of the main parachute, they've already been very, very safe.
报告完毕。
北京明白。
Right.
I
So,
mean, at this point, it's very much safe.
Yeah, they've already been very safe.
yeah, it's just whether they're comfortable when they
Right.
hit ground. They probably get vertigo regardless whether they're swinging right now.
Actually speaking, there is a very remarkable impact they can feel at the moment deployment of the parachute.
So we just had that the rescue teams the ground rescue teams are already on their way.
Yeah.
And they've departed, heading towards the
回收2号，跟踪正常。
projected landing site.
So we can hear voice from the commander that the recovery crew is still tracking the
雄鹰
trajectory.
2号光学吊舱捕获返回舱承载下降，报告完毕。
So we've locked the target on the capsule.
雄鹰2号 means the second
Another
helicopter.
helicopter, right?
Yeah.
5 helicopters, you said, and
Yeah,
a massive
yeah.
crew.
One is in command, and
Getting ready to land
the other
now.
4 are in the search team.
How big is that compared to the sort of standard that's internationally used? Would you know? Is that a fairly kind of standard sized search?
The U.S. lands in the ocean, so they will have less helicopters, but they will have more ships. So yeah.
Still, we need several minutes for the touchdown.
We just had another update there saying that the tracking is all in order.
Yeah.
That's the capsule there, the Shenzhou 15 3-man crew.
And
coming back to Earth.
besides this main parachute, you know that there is also a backup chute. If anything wrong happened to the main parachute, the backup chute will also it can ensure the safety of our astronauts.
So I just want to point out here that we can see that the capsule was really charred on one side.
Yeah, but that's the rope will be controlled to finally it change its direction to this attitude to a vertical direction.
So even with the heat shield, it's still completely blackened.
Right, on one side,
yeah.
because it comes in at an angle. It's not straight faced down. It has a very its center of gravity is shifted from away from down in the middle, which is why it has a tendency to roll over once it lands.
We can also very clearly see that you can see that at the upwind direction, the ablative material has been heated to a very dark color. Where on the other side is in not in a very dark color.
Yeah, that's what Professor Zhang was just telling us. So which side is up right now for the astronauts? They're sitting down, so they're facing the sky, or
Facing
are
the
they?
sky.
They're facing up.
Yeah.
So ideally, how would this capsule land to make it easier for them to come out, Professor Zhang?
Depending on what do you mean by ideal, because if it lands upright, it's probably easier for them to adjust to gravity. But you need additional ladders and everything.
So when we say up, when you said upright, lands upright, as in landing as it looks now, just coming down straight onto the ground.
Straight
Okay. But that's the astronauts facing up towards the sky. That would be easier for them to adjust to gravity.
Just what you mentioned, just before this mission, only we have two cases. The first is Shenzhou 6 mission, also Mr. Fei Jinlong inside, and the other is Shenzhou 13 mission. Only in these two missions, our Shenzhou capsule landed vertically.
And it doesn't need to. I mean, once it's on its side, it's actually easier for them to climb out. You don't need ladders or anything.
What if it landed on its side, but the astronauts were facing down because they're strapped into their chairs, right?
Yeah.
So they could potentially be sort of suspended and facing down onto Earth.
That will not be very comfortable.
And what would happen if, say, the hatch is the part that touches the ground first, is facing the ground? They'd have to turn the capsule, the crew?
It doesn't really stay that way. If you look at the shape of it, you have to be landing very carefully on its top to that just doesn't happen.
It would be quite a fluke, right, if it did happen that way.
Well, it will touch down soon.
Another update there that the tracking is all in order. And this parachute as well, so you're saying, Professor Yang, that it's 1,200 square meters, right?
Yeah.
So that's equivalent of
very huge.
several basketball courts, right? So
That's right.
how heavy is
回
it,
收1号跟踪结
this
束。
parachute?
It's very light. It's very light. Only no more than 100 kilograms.
回收2号，跟踪正常。
So we're hearing more updates from various teams.
Yeah.
北京明白。
We can soon
they're
see the
tracking,
working
that
of
they're
we can see
seeing
some smoke from
target.
the retro rocket.
We will be seeing some.
I believe it will touch down within several seconds.
So it's it has to be very light because they obviously don't want to take
Yeah,
any
yeah.
more, to have any more
too much weight.
more weight than they need, right?
Yeah.
This landing process.
各号注意，我是北京，下面通报返回舱第4次落点预报。
You can see
fourth
the
落
ground
点
quite
精度
clearly from
东
here
经
too.
幺洞洞度动4分39秒。
Right, they're
东
just
经
announcing
幺
ground
洞洞
controls
度
just
动
announcing
4
the
分39秒。
fourth projected
落点纬
landing
度
area. Will
北
this
纬
be the
4
last
幺
one
度
now?
3
This is
拐
the
分
last projection.
59秒，北纬4幺度3拐分59秒。北京第4次落点预报已发出。
Well,
雄鹰
we believe that you can see two videos, one from the helicopter and the other one from the ground vehicle.
落点精
So
度
this is
为
above.
Yeah,
above
exactly.
the
洞度
okay.
动
So
4
it will touch
分
down,
39秒
I。believe,
落点
within
纬
several
度为
seconds.
How far do
4
you
幺
think it
度
is from
3拐
ground
分
now?
59秒。报告完毕。
Kilometer?
回收2号，跟踪结束。正确，蒙氏。蒙氏明白。
Oh, there it is.
Okay, we can see the
各号注
smoke.
意，返回舱着陆。
Touchdown for the Shenzhou
Touchdown.
15. They're back to Earth.
Welcome home.
Indeed.
北京，雄鹰报告。
And the astronauts,
返回舱着陆。
actually,
报告完毕。
the 02,
北京明白。
probably Mr. Deng Qingming must conduct the operation of cutting the
From the
that's already
inside.
done,
From the
yeah.
inside? Yeah.
Yeah,
So that is the Shenzhou 15 crew landing back on Earth after a 6-month stay up at the China Space Station.
we can still see
Welcome
the
home
smoke.
to Fei Jinlong, Deng Qingming, and Zhang Lu.
北京，雄鹰报告。 雄鹰已到达着陆现场上空。
Right, we're hearing an announcement there from one of the search teams that they've reached the landing site.
So again, this time it's not in a vertical position. Because
This is the camera, presumably from the different from the closest rescue
helicopter,
team.
from that
北
helicopter.
京第4次漏点预报已发出
you know that's
后
the
续
reason
由东风按计划组织
it's not
搜救
in
回收工
vertical
作。
position is because the center of its mass or the centroid of the vehicle has some deviation from its symmetrical axis. So that is the reason when it touches down, usually
It's
it
more
will
likely
lie
on its
down.
side, right?
Yeah. So although a vertical landing will be more comfortable, but usually it seldom happens.
So this sort of landing, they're essentially landing kind of sitting down, right?
As I mentioned,
Imagining that,
only,
like how we're sitting right now, but touching the ground like
that
this.
only happened in Shenzhou 6 mission and the Shenzhou 13 mission.
The last one was also on its side as well.
Yeah. So you can see how fast the rescue team, they've
Yeah,
already...
you can see people running towards the capsule there.
Yeah, they've arrived.
Got 2 helicopters next to nearby.
So at least
this is
3
fantastic.
helicopters has arrived. We can see 2 in the video and the other one is taking the video.
Well, how nervous were you, Professor Yang, during this?
I'm very nervous. It is because you know that for every flight mission, the launch and the re-entry is always the most dangerous part.
It's fraught with risks, isn't it?
Yes. You know that there were 18 astronauts lost their lives in history, and 11 of them lost their life during the re-entry.
It is definitely a huge risk. But then in the context of how many astronauts have been to space and come back, 18, that is a fairly small number, right?
Yeah. Because there are already hundreds of astronauts visiting outer space.
So I mean, overall, this whole process is obviously it's done to a very safe standard. Otherwise, people
Especially
wouldn't be
with the
taking this.
Shenzhou program. It's so mature that I'm not perhaps less nervous than
Yeah.
Professor Yang.
Professor Young came in this morning saying, had trouble sleeping, right? Because you were nervously excited for this whole process.
I'm more nervous than the astronauts.
But Professor Zhang, you did okay overnight.
Right, yeah.
真不明白。
No, definitely. I mean, I feel like we can talk about this now. Earlier you don't want to say anything that's unlucky or to jinx anything, but it's definitely a very risky procedure for them to come back. I mean, even if it's safe, even if it's already done to the highest standard, there is always the possibility.
Right.
We can see from the video that the parachute, the main parachute, has already been cut off. I believe this is conducted by Mr. Deng Qingming or 02.
How they just press something, right, and obviously it just shoots off the parachute? Is that
Yeah, there's like a button on the side.
53秒，东京交通动速3分53秒，北纬412度。
We're just hearing the latitude and longitude position of the return capsule being announced there by the air teams.
都不明白。
Just to tell the ground teams where to go.
And
You can see them
you know
all
that
gathering there, congregating.
Yes, we just heard from the voice from the rescue team reporting the final coordinate, the latitude and the longitude of the landing point. And also, you know that it is very interesting that this coordinate is very close, very close to the launch pad.
It's full circle. They've come back. But I'm curious, why are they running there on foot? Would it not be much faster if they were in vehicles?
Well, the vehicle hasn't got there yet. These are all helicopter people.
These are all they're all coming off from the helicopters. I see. That's a lot of people in the helicopters.
So a lot of heavy equipment come with the convoy. So if they don't arrive soon enough, they'll have to rough it by sitting in a tent or something. Otherwise, they can have nice chambers, just restrooms and everything.
How big is China's rescue team in terms of the number of people? Must be hundreds?
It'll be
Would there be as
hundreds.
many?
Yeah. I can't remember, 400, 500 something.
So they've checked out the inside of the capsule, and update is that everything is normal. It's all looking good. How long do you think it will be before they can get the astronauts out of there?
Before that, the ground team will use the lead cover to block what I mentioned, the gamma ray altimeter, because it's radioactive and it is dangerous. So their first step is to cover the gamma ray altimeter, and also they must check the leakage of the
全部到
propellants
达着陆现场，
Make sure
返回
because
舱
it is
外
toxic.
观检查正常，下一步进行环境检测
So
及
all
过
the
滤
air teams are
完毕。
now at the landing site.
Yes.
So
北京明白。
all 5 helicopters.
We just heard the voice of the commander that they will conducting the environment detection.
Of the outside, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah, yeah.
exterior
Because as I
part.
mentioned, the propellant is toxic. It's hydrazine. Hydrazine is toxic, so they must check if it's safe enough for the ground team.
浓
We
度
can't
检
really
测为
see
零
very clearly
正在开
what
舱
the
门
rescue
报告
teams
完毕
are。wearing, but presumably they're in
都不明白。
protective masks, protective suits and
Yeah.
stuff. And they are opening the
公
hatch
开
now.
雄鹰报告
No, no, no.
They're
Only
used
when they
to-
ensure that
they're
the
getting ready
environment
to-
is safe
Right,
enough.
right, and then preparing
舱
for the
门
next.
已打开，报告完毕。
And they're all
No,
congregating on one side because the other side has gamma rays still
see.
blasting
But,
out.
but we heard the voice that the hatch is
Yeah,
already
yeah,
Oh, it's
there was
already
an
closed, okay.
announcement just now. So once they open the hatch, I mean, the astronauts, are they capable of walking out by themselves, or there will definitely need to be people going out to
Probably
help
not.
them, right?
They're still wearing their intravehicular spacesuits, so it would be really cumbersome if they can, even if they can.
So they even need a few people, search and rescue teams, to go inside to assist.
What we discussed is what we call the readaptation of the gravity. It needs several, a lot of hours.
我是北京，东风请讲。
返回舱，舱门已打开，
Oh, tell me.
Yeah, right,
舱
it's
内
even
外
on one side.
生化环境检测正常，
There
报
it
告
is.
完
We
毕
just。heard the other announcement.
Beijing
That the
明白。
environment testing, everything's come back normal. Data is all normal, and that they've opened the hatch. So the gamma rays is at the bottom of the space capsule.
Yeah.
东方雄鹰报告。雄鹰请讲。一天100人员已进舱，报告完毕。
They've entered the.
The medical team has already entered the capsule.
That was the announcement that we heard just now in Chinese. And then there will soon be, I think, with the last landing as well, some medical vehicles coming by, right? And there'll be one for each of the astronauts.
They
Do
will first
little checks with
help the
them.
astronauts help them to conduct the readaptation of gravity.
What was
Maybe
that?
give some
舱内
medicine,
气体
water,
和
and so
微生
on.
物采样，报告完毕。东部明白。
They're taking samples from inside the capsule. I think.
They're taking samples now. We heard the announcement. They're taking samples from inside the capsule.
Yeah.
But I believe at this moment the astronauts had already opened the face masks of their helmets.
They're
Right.
breathing Earth air.
Yes, for the first time after half a year.
东方雄鹰报
I wonder
告。
what that tastes like in the desert.
雄鹰请讲。
Brisk morning air.
现场正在
What
架
would the
设
temperature
便
be
携
right
飞
now in the
弹，
Gobi
报告
Desert? I
完毕
mean,。this time in the day, it's probably fairly cold, isn't it? Must be about. I mean, definitely above zero, but it would not be hot, would it?
My friends told me that at this moment probably it's about 17 degrees
Oh,
Celsius.
17. Okay, so that's a comfortable readjustment temperature, and not too
雄鹰
hot.
报告。
It's the right moment at this season in Gobi Desert.
正在建立警戒区，报告完毕。
So the people in the white suits are presumably the medical staff.
Yeah. Because very violent movements may cause hurt to the astronauts because they are still, that's as Professor Zhang mentioned, their muscles and cardiovascular system were weakened during these 6 months. Although we have all kinds of exercise and other countermeasures such as the nutrition to avoid the influence of the microgravity to the health of the astronaut, but still they need a relative long period for the adaptation.
So this adaptation period that they have to go through, is that What's it like for them right now? Is it more that they would find it difficult to stand, or is it more just that it's done to help
Very
to prevent
difficult.
harm at a later stage?
Usually they will feel very difficult to stand up.
So very weak.
Very
They
weak.
feel very weak coming back to Earth. But obviously, there's also the preventative side as well, to prevent any harm being done.
Yeah.
They exert
They
themselves.
may be
and there's-
feeling a little dizzy too.
Is that from the shaking, or is that just more from the
No,
change in gravity?
Just from the change in the gravity.
Right.
But you know that this is a normal case. But in an abnormal case, when they have an emergency landing, they must have the ability to survive before the arrival of the rescue
Considering arriving
team.
time.
So in this circumstance, they must depend on their own.
I think we're seeing a lot of vehicles arriving now, so that's all the ground teams congregating on the landing site,
东空
and the
雄
area
鹰
has
报
been
告，
cordoned off.
You know that inside the capsule they have some water, some food, and even they have
落
pistols.
点测量完毕，
In
返回
case you
舱
got
落
wolves
点
and
设备为
yeah.
东京
Oh, right.
Maybe an emergency landing they will land in the forest. Maybe there are beasts.
Yeah.
挖洞动速
They are prepared for every
2秒
eventuality.，
北纬412度38分，动拐秒，
So there's another
北纬
announcement of the
412度
landing
38
site.
分
Yeah.
动拐秒。
So this is
For the
reported
benefit
by
of
the ground team.
Yeah, okay. So this is for the benefit of the rest of the rescuers.
So this is the final coordinate of the landing point.
东风雄鹰报告，请请讲，
Oh, they must be
列
thrilled
结
right
站
now.
架设开通完毕
It's，still
报告
in
完毕，
process before they're coming out.
公布明白。
And coming out to a beautiful view as well. Look at this.
Yeah. So in the dawn of the Gobi Desert,
That's right.
very beautiful scene, and the three medical vehicles, three vehicles with each astronaut share vehicle will arrive soon. And you know that even there are toilets inside the vehicle.
All right.
北京，我是深圳15号。
That was a,
我是北京，
we're hearing from the Shenzhou 15 crew.
神舟
That was
15号
the voice
请
of
讲
the Shenzhou 15 crew.
我们牙前着陆，我们3个人感觉都很好，状态很好，身体很好，谢谢。
They
That
just
is
said
the
that
voice of
Shenzhou-
Commander Fei Jinlong.
That's Fei Jinlong saying that they've landed, all three of them feel good, they're in a good physical condition, and they
我
are
是东山，感觉良好，完毕。
北京明白，祝贺神舟15号顺利返航，你们辛苦了，向你们致以崇高的敬意。我们在北京迎接你们凯旋。
And that's the ground control congratulating the Shenzhou 15 crew on their return.
You know
They've
that
had a long journey.
02, Mr. Deng Qingming, and 03, Mr. Zhang Lu also repeated their own status. You know that Mr. Deng Qingming has a nickname called Grandpa Deng because before his flight mission, he's already had a grandchildren.
He's so young. He's 57, I think he is, right? I mean, in his 50s, already a grandfather.
落点纬度
Yeah, but his daughter has already had kids before his flight.
动拐秒，落点经度东经
That's
1度动
another
度
announcement of the
动3
coordinates
分
of the
5
landing
2秒
point.，
落点纬度北纬
And we're hearing it now.
412
That's the coordinates
度
being
38分，动
More
拐秒，
vehicles are
报告完
arriving.
毕。
And more
Beijing
rescue
inbound.
vehicles arriving. So this is the Gobi Desert. This is in the Inner Mongolia region, autonomous region in northern China, and that's the 3 Shenzhou 15 astronauts safely back home. And now for the rest of their recuperation, how long could that take? I think with the 14, they were I guess in quarantine or in rehabilitation for about 6 months or so, weren't they? Half a year? Quite a long time,
Not
or-
so long.
Not so long?
Not so long. Usually 1 or 2 weeks for quarantine.
Okay.
Because you know that's to avoid any infection because their body is their physical condition is really weak to avoid the infection of the microbes on the earth.
Well, yeah,
they
very
need-
different environment after
Even their relatives cannot contact with them directly during this quarantine procedure 1 or 2 weeks. and then will be the recovery stage for about 3 to 4 weeks maybe. To at this moment they can train to stand up and walk very gently, and finally they can be completely recovered after several months.
Okay, so a few months.
A few months observation period after the recovery therapies.
And this will all have to be done at a center designed for this. They wouldn't be
in
doing this
Beijing,
at home, right?
just in Haidian district, the astronaut center of China.
But after the quarantine period and when they're doing the rehabilitation, their families can visit potentially. They can.
After the quarantine, yeah.
雄鹰报告。
Because they've been in a sterile environment for so long, their immune system is probably weaker, so you don't
警戒
really
区
want to
已
get
建
them
立
sick.，
报告完毕。
Definitely.
真不明白。
So the area's been cordoned
东
off.
风，雄鹰报告。
请问请讲。
Just hearing
雄
very
鹰2
announcements
号
there from
已在
search
现场
teams
降落，报告完毕。
updating on their status.
So the second helicopter reported have already landed near the landing point.
That was probably the one that was giving us the aerial views.
Yeah. So this is the second flight mission of Mr. Fei Jinlong and the first mission of Mr. Deng Qingming and Mr. Zhang Lu. And that's Mr. Deng Qingming has a very, very touching story to us. You know that he is the last one in the first batch of astronauts of China who are still keep his training. You know that some of his colleagues have already retired and they have never had the chance to visit outer space.
He's with the first batch.
Such as Mr. Chen Qian, Mr. Wu Jie, Mr. Zhao Chuandong. It is very great pity for them. But Mr. Deng Qingming still insists on training, and finally he get the chance to conduct this mission.
I think that we were just hearing an announcement that they've taken samples of the environment inside the capsule.
We can see the medical teams in white uniforms. They will help the astronauts, and we believe that Commander Fei Junlong will come out first.
东风，雄鹰报告。
It's a very small
Capsule.
gap for them to have to get
The
through.
diameter is 2.3 meters.
2.3 meters. What about the hatch itself?
The hatch is less than 1
It
meter.
looks very, very small.
The diameter is less than 1 meter.
They've
Very,
taken
very narrow.
samples of different microbes inside the capsule as well. And earlier they took some gas samples.
Yeah.
So this is all obviously very important for research data, right?
Yeah. And also there are some scientific research results, some materials made in outer space, and some samples prepared.
So
in
apart
outer
from,
space.
say, gas and microbes, what else would they normally take from the kind of samples that they would take from the inside the capsule, Professor Zhang?
I think those are the main things. Those are just this similar sample as you get from the space station. So this is for engineering purposes, for the life support system and stuff, to see whether the composition of the air is suitable and all that sort of things. So is it coming out?
东风，雄鹰报告。
请问请讲。
We're hearing more updates from
伽马员
the
防覆
different
盖已安
search
装
teams.，
报告完毕。
So they've covered up the radiation source.
Yeah. As I mentioned, the cover to the gamma ray altimeter has already been mounted.
Right, so that's
to
it's now
avoid the
safe.
dangerous radiation.
And that's now safe for the search teams to go
go
around.
around,
the,
Yeah, quite right. So before the cover is mounted, the ground team cannot go to the backside of the vehicle because the influence of the radiation.
Let's just get a little background on the three men who are in the capsule right now. So Fei Jinlong is the captain, he's the commander, he's 58 years old, and he was chosen as a member of China's first team of astronauts in 1998, and he also commanded the Shenzhou 6 mission in 2005, so he really is a veteran at this. And Deng Qingming, as Professor Yang was saying, 57 but already a grandfather,
Yeah.
also chosen for the first team of astronauts, and he served as a backup crew for more than 20 years, right? And now for the Shenzhou 9, 10, and 11, and now he is here with Shenzhou 15, his first flight.
And also, Mr. Zhang Lu is the last
the youngest,
one.
right?
Is the last one in the second batch of China's astronaut team who
this is also his
conducted
first flight.
his maiden flight.
So I think we're already on the third batch now.
Third batch.
So the ones who went up with Shenzhou 16.
Shenzhou 16, there are 2 members from the third batch.
Right.
And that's for my personal view, the second batch is very, very lucky. There are 7 astronauts. All of them have already had their flight missions.
No backups.
Yeah. And that Mr. Fei Jinlong is act as the chief of the astronaut team for several years
Oh, right.
before.
报告完毕。
真不明白。
They have finished the installation of the astronauts' seats.
So both of Mr. Fei Jinlong's mission, he acted as the commander. He is also the commander of the Shenzhou 6 mission. So this is
They're in
he's also
steady
the
hands. The
commander.
Shenzhou 15 are in steady hands.
He's always the commander.
Do you think they'll be coming out? See, the camera is coming, so that means they're coming out very soon. do you
So
think
you may
they'll be- how do
notice
you
the
think
ground
they'll be
team
coming
very
out? Will
different.
they be carried out?
The uniform are in different colors, so they belongs to the different team.
Right, the white is the medical, or the
Yeah.
research taking the samples.
And also there are staff from the Shenzhou spaceship system.
Do you-
So
Do you think we'll see them walking out by themselves, but assisted,
No,
or they'll be
absolutely
carried out?
not.
Carried out on a
Mostly
stretcher,
be-
possibly?
Somebody will catch them on the hatch at the hatch.
the ground team will help them to get out of the vehicle.
But so they're unlikely to be walking in any way,
Yeah.
even if assisted.
They'll be carried to their seat, give a short speech, and then probably move to the chambers.
I believe your colleagues is already there.
I definitely see a lot of activity, flurry of excitement there.
Usually the team, according to the traditional, they will be introduced. They will be interviewed by the China Media Group or by those maybe the reporter from the Xinhua News Agency.
Oh, I mean, they're no doubt excited, but they also must be incredibly tired as well after this long journey.
Well, also, that some of my friends from the major media of China also get up very early and go
To watch
together with
this.
the rescue team.
Like the 3 of us here.
And I imagine their family and their friends are sitting around right now, around the TV and watching as well, waiting to see them.
Oh, they must be so excited, and they haven't seen their loved ones for 6 months.
But usually they will wait for them in the airport in Beijing.
And that should be today, right? They said today.
Absolutely, this afternoon probably.
Yeah.
So after some simple check on medical conditions, they will be transported from this place to the Dingxin airport, very
Right.
close to the launch site, and then with the airplane fly back to Beijing.
I mean, this is a normal wait, right?
Yeah.
How long it's taking to have the astronauts
Very,
come
very
out. This is
normal.
quite a normal duration.
just to
normally.
give them time to.
东风
And that's the special seat that they'll be. Is that a seat that they're carrying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the seat for the astronauts to sit on
一
once
天
they're
一保
carried
人
out.
员正在协助航天员离开座椅。报告完毕。
We're hearing the announcement there that the teams that are helping the astronauts leave their seat in the capsule.
Yes, they will leave
So
their
any
seats
second.
with the assistance of the ground team.
So I can see with that chair there that their legs, they're keeping their legs propped up.
Yeah.
But I think in some other countries, when astronauts come back, you do see them sort of walking but assisted as well.
That depends on the duration, how long they will stay in outer space.
Right.
You know that for some flight, for instance,
Like these
the
private crews that have been going up there,
the
right?
space shuttle mission, usually even the longest shuttle mission will not no longer than 1 month.
Right.
So they can walk down.
Right. So that doesn't have too much impact on their bodies.
Yeah. And you can see also they prepared a quilt on the seat. Because, it's it's fairly a little bit cold for the astronaut.
And also, I guess, to make the seat more comfortable for them.
Yeah, exactly. So I believe this is the seat prepared for the commander Fei Jinlong.
请问听讲，
Oh, I think they're carrying. It looks like they're
正在
carrying
组
someone
织
up
动
there.
摇航天员出舱，报告完毕。
都是你吗？
Now for Mr. Fei Jinlong to get out of the vehicle.
And you see the teams there helping to move somebody out. Is that Commander Fei?
Yeah.
Welcome home.
东风，雄鹰报告，
请问听讲，
动摇航天员已出舱，报告完毕。
都是你吗？
I mean, this is a procedure. It doesn't mean he has to have people carrying him.
It's just
like
to
this.
be on the
It's
safe
just-
side,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That is Commander Fei Jinlong there being made comfortable on the seat,
Yeah.
getting wrapped up.
And
We're
then
not close enough to see their expressions yet. Is that his bag that's just come out with him?
I believe this is
His
reported.
luggage.
你好，欢迎回家。回家了。此时此刻有什么想向全国人民表达的？
首先要向祖国人民报
First of all,
告，
I would like to report to my country and
我们
people, the
神舟
Shenzhou
15号
15 crew
完成了在
has
轨所有的
successfully
工作和任务，
completed all assigned work and
现在
tasks in
顺利
orbit,
回到了
and
祖国
we。have returned to Earth
我
safely.
们感觉良好。
We are feeling good.
呃，
Out of the capsule with the Shenzhou 15 crew, and we heard him there saying that he feels good and he's looking smiley. So definitely in good spirits. Who do you think will be the second one to come out?
It should be Deng Qingming.
So sort of in order of seniority?
Right. There's 01, 02, 03,
Ah,
the
right, of
designation
course,
of the
that.
astronaut. Yeah.
As I mentioned, O2, Mr. Deng Qingming is in charge of cutting the parachute because only there is a
东
button
风
near him.
雄鹰报告，
And there's Commander Fei waving.
正在抬送动摇航天员至一间一救车，
So he's
报告完
01.
毕。
That's his serial
东风
number,
明白
isn't it?
Yeah. And he's the commander.
And they'll be taking him now to the little medical van.
Yeah. The medical vehicle, there are 3 of this kind of vehicle
One for each of
for
them.
each
雄鹰报告
astronaut.，
What sort of checkups would they likely be doing there? Just heart, blood?
Their biological parameters of their body. As I mentioned, there are even toilets prepared for them.
When will they
Very,
get
very comfortable.
When will they get to eat? I mean, presumably their body needs to adjust for a bit before they can
Yes,
take any
specially
foods,
prepared
right?
for them. Yeah.
Do we know what could be on the menu?
Not too salty, maybe.
Something healthy.
It's personalized now, but tradition is when they go out, they eat dumplings, and when they come back, they eat noodles.
Personalizes and they might get to decide, might get to request what they would like.
Right, probably different types of noodles.
报告完毕。
都是你吗？
So you can see the orange ground vehicles is the medical ground vehicles for the prepared for the astronauts.
3 of them there. So we just heard that the Deng Qingming is getting ready to come out as well.
Yeah.
So this
You know
is
that
Commander
even
Fei
for
going
the
into the van.
even for the Shenzhou 12 mission, we only have 1 vehicle for the astronaut. But since the Shenzhou 13 mission, we have 3 of these vehicles.
So, you have a
So more
personalized-
comfortable for the astronauts.
Right. And more attention on them as well.
Yeah.
Each one gets a crew that they deserve. And that's the teams there preparing the seat for Deng, who will be coming out
东
very
风
soon.
雄鹰报告，
请问听讲，
动摇航天员已抬送至
And I
一
think that
间一
is
救
their
车，
that's their
报告
luggage,
完
isn't
毕。
it? That little bag there, each of them. Or is that did they take that out of the capsule?
No, I
Oh
think
no, that's
that's
something that's there.
雄
That's,
鹰报告，
oh, that's something the search teams probably
yeah, that came
Yeah.
with the ground crew.
动两航天员已出舱，
啊
报告完毕。
都不明白。
There is Deng Qingming being lifted out and onto his seat, and he'll be soon taken to the medical van as well. Wrapping him up. It looks very windy there.
Yeah. So that's pretty good that they had a smooth landing because wind can be a problem.
Can make it very shaky.
Right.
We'll be hearing his
欢迎回家。
Welcome back
25年的
home.
坚持与努力，
After 25 years of
返回地球
persistence and
有
hard
什么
work,
心情想表达的？
what do you like to say at this
回
moment?
到地球的怀抱，回到祖
I'm
国
very
的怀抱
happy to be，back
看到
in
这么
the
多亲
embrace
人，
of
我
my
非常非
home,
常的高
and
兴，
I'm
非常
very
非常
glad to
高兴。
see my family and the loved
此刻我
ones.
想
I'm very happy.
感谢全
And
国
would
人
like to
民
say a
对
big
我的
thank you
我
to
们
the
成
people
的
of our
关注
country
支持
for
和
their
鼓励
great support and encouragement to our
也
crew,
感谢航天
and
一线
also
的
to
所
all
有
of
工作
our
人员的
colleagues on the
180多天
ground
的
for
日夜
their
陪伴，
accompany day and
支持的
night
我
in
非
the
常
past
想
more than
想念
180
家
days.
乡。
I really miss my
25年的
hometown and my
飞行
family
经历让我
and
更加
friends,
坚信
and I
梦想的力
believe
量
that my
更加
experience
相
let me
相信
believe that
坚持的
the
力量
power of dreams
我还是
and
那样一句话
perseverance.
无论年龄多大，
No matter
人都
how
需要
what is
就是
your
最幸福的
age, I'm always happy because I'm
谢谢，
needed
谢谢。
by my country. Thank you.
Well, that was a very upbeat, positive message there from him.
Yeah, and tie in with the earlier discussion of this perseverance, you know,
Right.
stay it on.
Yeah, having been a backup for so
雄鹰
many
报
years,
告，
so many missions.
雄鹰请讲。
正在台送动鸟航天员至一间医救车，报告完毕。
As the journalist mentioned, 25 years of waiting. So that's his dream comes true.
Right. Must have been worth the wait. And Deng is now also heading to his to his van for a checkup. So we've seen an interesting combination for the Shenzhou 16 crew that's gone up there. There's not just trained astronauts, but also a payload specialist, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he is the first one who is not from the PLA.
雄鹰
Right.
请讲。
Yeah,
Is that a trend that we'll be seeing more of, do you think, in future missions?
I believe so.
脱离航天员座椅，
Right. So in the
报告完
past,
毕。
usually have a really rudimentary spacecraft, so you have to right.
But you know that among the third batch of astronauts of China, there are 4 payload experts, and Mr. Gui Haichao is the only one from universities.
Right. And Professor Zhang, you were saying, so now
Right.
that they've changed the...
Yeah. So in the past, you need really good pilots because the spacecraft are really simple, so it's mostly manual. Now it's more automatic, and then the spacecraft, the space station is very complicated. So you need a flight engineer to be able to sort of maintain it, and then obviously there's all these experiments that needs to be carried out. You need people. Right now, Professor Gui, the first civilian up there, he's still a journalist. He's actually his major is in spacecraft control. So later on, you would have people working on specific experiments that are very difficult.
The more specialists.
Yeah, so they are actually really nothing to do with space industry
动鸟航
whatsoever.
天员以
So
台
you see a
送
lot more
至一间
scientists,
医救车，
perhaps?
A lot more
报告完毕。
scientists, so that really comes with the
都不明白。
more sophistication of the missions.
But the kind of combination, though, of usually always a 3-man crew or three women crew, but there will always have to be someone with a sort of astronautic background, with a PLA
Always
background, I think? Or-
need at least a pilot,
Right.
just in case of emergencies.
Right.
Usually, the commander should have the qualification to be a pilot.
I see, and then the
also,
other two could
we
be
need another pilot
scientists
to
or-
be a backup of each other. So in any case, if someone has some, for instance, some serious ill, the other one can take his role as a pilot. This is extremely important in abnormal cases when something wrong happened during the launch or during the re-entry or during the docking phase.
Right.
So the pilot can take the role
Take over manually,
to save the whole mission.
东风
So we're seeing
雄鹰报告，
the third astronaut from the Shenzhou 15 crew, Zhang Wu, being carried out now.
动3航天员已出舱，报告完毕。
03.
都
His
不明
number
白。
is.
Zhang Lu is also a previous pilot of the Air Force.
我是北
He's
京
very young. He's only
东风
in
请
his
讲。
40s, isn't he?
3名航天员已出舱
Is he the youngest to of all these
I believe
missions?
he was born in
70
1976,
something, yeah.
maybe.
北京明白。
Mr. Gui Haichao and Mr. Zhu Yangzhu are the youngest astronauts now in China, only 36 years
Oh,
old.
they're 30. Oh, that is young.
So both were born in 1986.
So each batch is roughly 10 years younger.
So here we'll be hearing from.
你好，张璐，我是总台央视的记者。
With CMT,
首次飞行就长
your
达半
first trip
年，
to
此
space
时此
lasted
刻
6
回到祖国的
months.
怀抱，
And now you're back
有什么
to
心里
Earth.
想表达的？
Anything
后
you'd
续
like
有
to
什么
say
计
at
划？
this moment? Any plan
我想说
afterwards?，
能够
I would like to
回到地
say
球沐浴在阳光下，真的挺好
I'm
的。
really thrilled to be back to my country safely.
神舟15号
I'm
任务
feeling
结束
good,
了，
and
然
the
后
mission
平安
of
回到
Shenzhou
了
15
祖国的
is
怀抱
over.
我现在心情十分
And
的激动
I'm。very excited.
我在空间站的时候，
In
也
the
经
space
常会在
station,
舷窗
I often
透过舷窗眺望，
looked out
想寻找
through
我
the
的祖国，
porthole
寻找我
window
的家
looking
乡，
for my
也寻
motherland,
找
my
六望洞庭
hometown,
湖。
and the
虽然说
Zhongting
厚厚的
Lake.
云层总是遮挡我的视线，让我看
Unfortunately,
不
the
清
thick
楚。
clouds
但是我
always
知道
block my
祖
view,
国
so I
一直在
couldn't
我
see
心中，
clearly.
家
But
乡
I
一
know
直
my
在我
mother
心中。
and my
现在
hometown
任务结束
always
之
been
后，我
in
们
my heart.
会尽快的调整好
Going
身体，
forward,
我
we
们
will
训练，
first get back
随
in
时准
shape
备
as
再
soon
次
as
出征太
possible
空，
and
负责更
also
伟
to
大的使命，
resume training
不
to
负
prepare
大
ourselves
和人民
ready
的
for the
众
next
最
mission.
后
And
还
we
有一句
will
话想
always
要与
live
大
up
家一起分
ourselves
享，
to the
这
trust
是
of
我
the
在神
party,
舟
the
15号任
country,
务之后
and the people.
经历4次
Finally,
出
I
征
have some
的一个
words to
感
share
悟。
with you
沿
and
有
also
星
my
辰大海，胸怀
inspirations.
赤大
I
中
see
心
a。sea full of stars and I give my heart to the country. Thank you.
非常好。
He seems to be in very good spirits. That's Zhang Lu,
Yeah.
our third and last astronaut with the Shenzhou 15 crew. So now the capsule
雄
is
鹰报告，
empty,
请请讲。
and he'll be lifted off to his
正在
van
台
as well
送
for his
动
medical
山航天
checkups.
员自一间一救车报告完毕。
I like that he said that it was nice to feel the sun on
Right.
Earth. Right? I mean, 6 months in space, just no concept of that, right?
Maybe
no
more
concept
favorite
of time,
is
no
the fresh
concept of
air.
warmth.
Fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks to be in a good spirit and good house.
Definitely.
Yeah. He looks like he might be able to just walk on his own.
Maybe even run.
Right.
Look at him waving excitedly. So it's Fei Junlong, Deng Qingming, and Zhang Lu are now all safely back on Earth and getting ready for their recuperation. And do you think they'll be going back into, well, he was saying, heading back into training soon for future
Right.
missions. So after just a couple of months rest, will they get a holiday?
Well, as
各号注
mentioned
意
earlier, there's 6
我是
months
北京
recovery
后
period,
续
then like
东风
2
按计
to
划
3
组
years
织
of
航天员
extra
一兼一保
training to go
和
back
返
up
回舱
again.
现场组织
2
工
to
作
3。years of training
预祝
again, even though
雄鹰
they've been
猛
once
士
already.
返程顺利
It still takes that long
东
again
风
for the next mission, potentially, to
东风明白。
next
Yeah.
rotation.
雄鹰
Yeah, and also the mission
雄鹰明
profiles
白。
change
猛士
all the time. They have to be like
猛士明白。
really know everything. And then probably they will be leading up to new novices because he's now
Yeah, he's a veteran
experienced,
himself,
yeah,
right?
old hand. So he'd be the commander likely next time.
Wow, another period of 2 to 3 years. I mean, this is also to physically prepare them again, right? Now that they've adjusted to Earth, they've got to.
Right, you can't go up there too often anyways. I mean, there's a total dosage of radiation you can receive. You can't just like keep going back and back.
请请讲。
What do you think the maximum is? How many trips
动山航
can
天
one
员
possibly
以
take in
台
their
送自
lifetime?
一间一救车
Oh,
现场
who
转
was
入
who's that
载
person?
体
It was an
类
American
一间一
female
跑阶段
astronaut.
报告完毕
Who's been here.
东风明
Peggy
白。
Whitson.
Right, how many? How
many
long
trips
was
has
this?
she
The
800 hours?
accumulated duration for Miss Peggy Whitson is more than 800 days in outer space.
800 days
Yeah,
for 3.
but the single
2
trip, the
2 years,
longest
almost
record
3.
is made by Mr. Polyakov from Russia. But he just passed away last year, and the record is 437 days in outer space when he was in the Mir space station.
That's in one
One
stretch.
trip. One trip. Yep.
That's
One
over a
single
year. That's over a year up there.
over a year.
Year and a half.
So also, you know, that's there are some missions such as, you know, that's Gitov, Marorov, during their trip in the Mir space station, they also stay there for 1 year. And also there are another 2 expedition team to the International Space Station, each one with Russian astronaut, cosmonaut, and the American astronaut stay there for 1 year, for about 1 year.
That's an important experiment in itself, right? Seeing the human endurance.
好，现在3名航天员已经转运到了旁边的3辆一间一救车上。那么在这车上呢，它可以进行简单的洗漱，还有换衣服。那么医生呢，也可以在车里对航天员进行更加细致的检查和健康评估。当然呢，他也会在车上，3名航天员可以吃上返回地球后的第1顿饭。那么按照惯例，一般会准备一些清淡的、容易消化的食物，同时呢，也会有一些个性化的地质食谱。我这里拿到了一份新的食谱哈，先说说洞3张璐，他的老家呢是湖南汉寿的，工作人员给他准备了常德米粉，还有汉寿的玉碧藕，这是一道当地的有名的菜肴。
So I think this is what Professor Zhang is saying about the personalized menu, right? So this is they're getting a whole new menu for their first meal back on Earth.
点了一份猪肉大葱的饺子。
And there's some dumplings being requested on the menu here.
That's also my favorite.
Pork and leek.
他今天早上的早餐呢是1碗鸡汤面，但是他特别提了一个要求，就是要加2个煎鸡蛋。再加上1份青菜。那么我想呢，一份
chicken soup noodles for breakfast，
也为圆梦充足的这一次太空之旅画上了一个圆满的句号。那么在现场的所有的队员呢，也是用这种精心、细心、贴心的准备，让航天员回到祖国怀抱，能够安心放心和暖心。好吧，现场的情况我就先介绍到这里。
ground crew showing their care for the astronauts and welcome them back with a delicious, customized and personally prepared meal for each of them, giving them what they want after 6 months aboard, eating. I mean, they have a pretty varied diet up there as well, but it's nothing like a homemade food, right?
It's not fresh cooked.
No.
You know, during the first the crew 1 mission of the United States, you know, I have a friend from Japan, the Japanese astronaut Suichi. Also, before his flight, also they prepared some Asian food for him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, food is what heals the soul, so it's very important that they eat well, right?
And what you mentioned, dumpling, they can also enjoy dumpling in the space station, especially during the Chinese New Year.
Right, that's easy to pack and take up.
Not very easy.
No. But it's all kind of ready-made and
it's already made, and you know that you cannot heat that in the station.
So how are they?
You cannot boil that in the station.
So how would they have eaten?
So they have already been made. You just open the package and eat.
Oh, it's all ready made. Okay, I see. So there's no preparation going on in the station itself. It's all just sort of slightly heated up, and that's it.
Yeah. Right.